In this week's image breakdown, we're going to take a look at how we shot this advertising image for a cider client. Now you can see immediately at looking at this shot that it is a comp shot, or it has some element of comping, but the comping was actually kept to a bare minimal. So clearly we couldn't have the bottle with liquid inside of it as well as the apple, but what we did do was have a couple of bottles on standby and we had them cut. So we had a glass cutter, cut the bottles into two pieces like that for us, and then on the empty bottles we placed the apples cut to fit inside that base piece and inside the main piece. And we also had many full bottles as well. So the full bottle was placed in position, and then that was carefully lit and photographed, and I'm going to go through the lighting on that for you in a minute. And then once we'd completed the photography of the full bottle and the lighting, we swapped those out with the cut bottle with the apple inside of it and the cut segment with the apple inside of it, and then photographed those under exactly the same lighting conditions, and then those two images were joined together in Photoshop in post-production afterwards. There was also another little technique with getting this lovely refraction of coloured light falling on the knife there. Obviously the knife is in there as a symbol that it may have cut through the apple, cut through the bottle, all part of the narrative. But as you can imagine, if you look at that image, it really wouldn't be feasible for the light from the bottle and the light that's coming through the bottle, which you can clearly see on the floor surface there, it wouldn't be feasible for that light to be hitting the knife at the same time. So we actually had to create that lighting separately with another bottle from above, which I'll talk through in a moment. Now you can also see that we've got a lovely cold look condensation on the bottle. Again, that uses a special mixture that sets rock hard, so it's not going to run and it's not going to evaporate, and it can be there as long as you light under the warm modelling lamps, no problem at all. And on Karl Taylor Education we show you how to prepare the bottles and treat them and create that liquid to get that particular effect. We also have a small patch of liquid looking as if it's run from the bottle and the apple, and a couple of pips on the floor. Now if we look at the overall mood of the shot, you can see it's got a very sort of theatrical mood with this very strong spotlight just emanating around the bottle and the objects in the shot, and then it falls away quite rapidly to darkness. Again, that was another light used to create that patch of light, and we'll look at that on the lighting diagram shortly. Before we look at the lighting diagram though, let's look at some of the other interesting lighting aspects that are going on. So here on the top edge of the bottle you can see a stripe of light that was from another small strip box, and for those with a keen eye you would see that the label is lit more prominently, so the brand name actually stands out, and that was lit with another small spotlight as well. Now for the glow of light coming through the bottle, that uses the common technique of using reflector cards, gold reflector cards in this case, behind the bottle to bounce some light back through the liquid so the liquid looks full of life and full of colour. So that's the general overview of the lighting. Let's take a look at my lighting diagram so we can talk through it in a little bit more detail. So if we start with the set from above, here we have the cut half of the bottle, the cut bottle and the knife laying down, so we're looking straight down on the set here. Let's start off, the camera was down here coming in from that angle at a low down position, not totally low to the table as you can see, but not so high that we're looking down completely on the bottle. So we're just probably camera height round about there relative to the table height. If we then move on back to the lighting diagram, the next items were the gold card. So the gold card is laid down either flat behind the bottle or just at a slight angle, elevated off the ground, and flat just behind the cut segment of the bottle, possibly a slight angle on it. And that gold card is going to bounce the predominant lighting that's coming from above, bounce it off of the gold card so that it bounces back through the product, as you can see there. Now let's move on to the lighting. If we look at the honeycomb grid area, that is the area that is the spotlight, if you like, that you can see sort of forming around the product, and then it fades away into darkness. So that is the sort of area that that light is covering, and that's coming from a light at the back here, from the back and from above. Now we can tell it's coming from above at the back because if we look at the shadows falling this direction, you can see the direction that the light must have been traveling to cast that shadow, and to cast that shadow, and to cast the shadow from the knife. Go back to the lighting diagram, you can see that's where the light would have been coming from, but it was also creating that spotlight on the base surface by utilizing a fairly tight honeycomb grid to create that patch and ball of light. Now for the light along the top of the bottle that we looked at, this light running along here, that comes from another light in the form of a very small strip box, which was placed just here so that that light would catch along the edge and the top of that bottle just to give it a little bit of form and a little bit of shape. And then finally there was another spotlight here, and that light was aiming and shining towards the label of the bottle to illuminate a very small spot of light. So this would have been a very tight Fresnel or a very tight snoot. Now I think in this case it was actually a snoot, so a very small feathered patch of light just a couple of inches across that allowed us to light the label and highlight the brand name in the shot. And then beyond that, it was just that case of carefully taking the two shots, the one of the full bottle, and then removing the full bottle and putting the cut bottle in exactly the same position, which we do by laying down some markers. And then in the tethered shooting software, we can actually overlay two images so that we can look at them and keep moving the product until it absolutely lines up perfectly with the previous product. Shoot those images as well, and then that gives us the combination. Now the final piece of the puzzle, as I mentioned, was the lighting that you can see there on the knife. How did we do that? Well, that was quite simple. At the time, once the full bottle was out of the way, we either used that full bottle or another full bottle, and we held that full bottle in front of the spotlight that was shining down onto the table to create the ball of light. We held a bottle of cider in the air in front of that beam of light, and that light refracted through the bottle and cast that lovely dappled coloured light onto the knife that we then used that as a comp in as well. So you're looking at three images comped together to form the final piece. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. If you'd like to see more great examples and full lighting tutorial videos on product photography, portraiture, fashion and post-production, then head over to Karl Taylor Education. Thanks for watching.